Many gardeners believe progress comes before effort. The more you do, the more you care, the better your garden should be. And when nothing seems to be happening, that can feel uncomfortable, almost as though we're being negligent if we're not busy. But very often, gardens improve when doing less, not more. I help women who garden grow clarity and confidence in their gardens and in themselves. And today I want to explore why stepping back can sometimes be the most skillful thing you can do in the garden. There's a common belief that effort equals care. So when we feel unsure, we often respond by doing more. We adjust, we tidy, we intervene just in case. But plants don't respond to effort in the way that people do. They respond to timing, to consistency, and often being left alone long enough to establish themselves. I learned this lesson very clearly when I was a student. As part of our horticultural course, we had to manage an allotment plot, and it formed part of our overall assessment in that particular year. And the aim was to show we understood how to grow and harvest crops for home use, that's vegetables. Part of the criteria was regular maintenance, and we had to keep our plots in good condition. We had to stake them when they needed it, we had to support the plants as they required it, and keeping everything free from weeds, pests, and diseases. All of that had to be done without chemicals. And, there were some students that went there every day. Their plots were immaculate. I wasn't one of those students. Um, Mine, well, it wasn't quite so much as immaculate as at one point I'd taken my eye off the ball because I was rather busy. And for a few weeks, I didn't actually do a great deal on my plot. Then, as the deadline date was looming for our assessment, I thought, gosh, I've only got a few weeks to get back on and catch up and make it look presentable. I wasn't the only one that had their plots not immaculate, but a lot of them were looking pretty smart, just as the textbook would tell you. But what had actually happened during that period um, was something that can happen anytime at any part of the year. The allotments had been hit by black aphids, and the broad beans across the plots were absolutely covered. They were badly attacked. You could see that at a glance. It was just like a black strip all the way up the stem. And obviously, that was the aphids just in their hundreds, basically, clinging and living off the broad beans. Um, Except mine, you know. It was like one of those things. Oh, this is a good thing. My broad beans were untouched. They were clean, they were healthy, and the reason was surprisingly simple. The weeds that I hadn't cleared had effectively hidden the plants in plain sight. They were camouflaged, and all those tiny plots had been open and exposed to the black aphid. And it was in that moment that I learnt this lesson, and it stayed with me ever since. Effort doesn't always equal effectiveness. And whilst there were moments where I was envious that my fellow students had got immaculate plots and they looked absolutely stunning, at that point in time, I realised that I was blessed because of the neglect that the garden had had at actually disguised my plants from the attack of the black aphid. So sometimes the systems in our gardens balance themselves out when we stop trying to control everything in every moment. And gardens have rhythms. There's growth and then there's pause. There's expansion and then there's rest. And when we interfere too often, we interrupt those rhythms before they've had time to establish. The plants that consistently moved, the plants that we consistently move, adjust, correct, they never get a chance to show what they can actually do on their own. And sometimes the most skillful thing that we can do is simply to observe a little bit longer. Stepping back isn't passive, it's a decision to let the system reveal itself. And I know sometimes when we step back, we feel like we're not actually doing something. But each time we choose restraint, nothing goes wrong. Sometimes important things happen. Now, when I say each time we choose restraint, nothing goes wrong, that's when we choose to step back at the right time. If we step back at the wrong time, well, yes, clearly some things could go wrong, um, and it's you beginning to trust your own judgment, and when you realize that you don't have to manage every moment of the garden for it to thrive, then the confidence compounds over time, not because you did more, but because you learned when not to do more. So, doing nothing isn't neglect, it's often understanding the action, and sometimes the garden benefits most when we allow it the space to show us what it really needs. And remember, every plant grows with care, and so do you. Until next time, keep growing your garden and yourself.